Whether you would rather live without TV than have to give up your Facebook account, or you think that Twitter is where it's at and who needs to communicate with more than 140 characters at a time, or that YouTube has everything you need to exist for the rest of your life. These are just a few of the social media channels that impact our lives each and every day. Even if you don't have a user ID for these sites, you hear about people communicating through these channels. How many conversations start out, I posted it on Facebook, or I read it on Twitter, or I watched it on YouTube. Face it, we communicate this way today and probably for years to come. This presentation is going to begin the conversation about how some of the most powerful social media tools impact politics in America and across the globe. Let's start at the beginning. The definition, according to Wikipedia, for social media are forms of electronic communication for social networking and microblogging, through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content. How do you define social media? What do you think of when someone says the words social media? The definition is somewhat personal to all of us. At first, it may be as narrow as Facebook, but it is a whole lot grander than that for sure. It is almost ingrained in how many of us live day to day. Think about it. How would you get your news? The weather forecast, and which of your friends is where at any given moment. Regardless of what you might consider your favorite or the best, there sometimes seems to be as many channels to get your message out there as there are contacts in your smartphone. What that means to politics is that they need to be almost everywhere and all the time to reach the masses. For the sake of this presentation, we're going to focus on the Big Five as selected by me. These are common ones that many of us depend on, use, have user IDs for, and that the masses are somewhat comfortable with. This is by no means meant to be an exhaustive list, nor will it necessarily be the Big Five for the next presidential election. All of these have some history in recent large-scale elections. The names are certainly recognized by many voters, and all have been used throughout our recent political campaigns. I'm going to present to you a little history of these brands, some statistics, so that you can become comfortable with why I've selected them, as well as examples of how they have been used, both successfully and unsuccessfully. Let's start with a big one, Facebook. This was started in 2004 by a group of Harvard University students, initially designed to connect those attending Harvard. It's a little bit bigger than that today. According to Wikipedia, there are 1.11 billion, that's a B, billion users worldwide as of March 2013. Usage continues to grow at impressive rates for those 25 to 34, 35 to 54, and 55 plus, which experience growth as large as 80%. Something to note for those involved in politics is that Facebook has shown some significant decreases in those 13 to 17 and 18 to 24. 53% of the users are female. How important is that fact if you're trying to reach this segment of the population for your message? Honestly now, what would politics be without some good old-fashioned sex scandals? Oh, don't worry, we'll discuss that in a little bit. So imagine this. You created an app for your candidate, showing them who they need to contact prior to Election Day, comparing friends lists from Facebook to available voters lists, only to find out that due to not-so-new Facebook privacy rules, you would no longer be able to skim those friends lists. Yep, this very thing happened to President Obama's camp leading up to the 2012 re-election campaign. On a side note, Romney's camp, too, developed an app. However, it was a lot less popular, so much so that it was not even updated for the 2014 national races. Another of Facebook's case studies for success is the Vote No on 8 campaign in Florida during the 2011 elections. The proposition was all about expanding the size of K-12 classrooms in the state of Florida. A vote for yes would mean that the size of these classrooms would be expanded, Voting no ensured that they would stay the same or shrink. Those that wanted to leave things as is did their Facebook homework. They served up different ads to all different age segments on Facebook, as well as different types of ads for males versus females. They also zeroed in on the most populous counties of Dade and Broward. Putting their money where they felt they would get the most benefit also allowed for a clear case of analyzing just how powerful Facebook can be with regards to a political issue. The results went in favor and fell short of the 60% needed to be passed into law in Florida. After the election, some of these users were polled, and in some areas as many as 45% of those asked recalled seeing the Facebook ad. The amount that was spent on this tremendously effective campaign is about the equivalent of a snail mail campaign to 150,000 homes. A September 2014 New York Times article started out by stating what is obvious to us users. There isn't a checkbox to indicate what political party you belong to, but if you think Facebook and your friends have no idea which side you lean to, yeah, right. This article states that at least 2 statewide races used the new tool, Custom Managed Audiences, to reach the voters they felt they needed to. These political races were Terry McAuliffe's election as Virginia's governor in 2013, and this year's re-election efforts of John Cornyn, a Texas Republican senator. Both are examples of successful user targeting via voter lists. Facebook first introduced the tool in February 2013 and recently upgraded its capabilities. It's reported that Senator Cornyn's campaign has directly paid Facebook more than $77,000 since last year. Considering the hundreds of millions of dollars spent on TV advertisements, it seems like a rather cheap and obviously effective way to promote your candidate. One very large difference between Facebook ads and TV commercials: they can be extremely targeted. The best a creatively placed TV commercial can hope for is to zero in on the reported demographics for the type of viewers during a specific program. The Custom Managed Audiences tool works like this. A campaign or group uses its own list of potential voters or buys one from a state authority or private vendor and uploads it to Facebook. The company then matches the names to its user database through database management companies such as Axiom that specialize in collecting information about individuals. This process effectively combines the electoral information it already knows about voters with their Facebook profiles, things like likes, group membership, issues, or even your favorites. This advice about 10 common mistakes political campaigns make on Facebook comes to us from a blog post written by Tyler Pearson of News Media Campaigns. 1. Once a Facebook page is created, keep on it. Link to it whenever possible. Put links on the website to the Facebook page and from the page to the website. 2. Use a page, not a personal profile, to promote a candidate. 3. It's better to hide the personal profile during the campaign to reduce any user confusion. 4. Use the candidate's name in the URL to help generate name recognition. 5. Use the full URL in print, radio, or TV. Don't expect the user to hunt around for candidate's Facebook page. 6. Facebook provides literally oodles of information about those who like the page. Use it to your advantage. This is essential for creating an effective Facebook ad. 7. Take a viewer right to the page that highlights the most important aspects of the campaign. Don't make the user hunt around for what's important to the candidate and thus the viewer. 8. Although it might seem like an easy way to do 2 things at once, it's not wise. Twitter only allows 140 characters to get the message across. Not to mention, it can be cumbersome to read over the hashtags and the @ symbols on Facebook. 9. Personalize the Facebook page. Show the human side of things. Remember, people want to get to know the candidate. On Facebook, they want to feel like they are getting beneath the story and get to know the candidate in a more personal way, rather than just a corkboard for all their news articles users can find almost anywhere. 10. Don't make the title something like Joe Smith for city attorney. What happens if Joe doesn't win? Or what if in 2 years Joe runs for governor? If the page included the past title, it won't be useful for future endeavors. Whether you're a user, past, present, future, with the ability to raise serious dollars, Facebook is here to stay. In many aspects of our lives, and who has more money to throw at things than politicians? You can bet that the Facebook geeks will continue to work on ways to slice, dice, and marinate their users, and serve them up with a sprig of parsley for all those willing to pay for it. 31% of Twitter users are between 18 and 29. Does that sound like the next generation of influential political voters? 22% of African American internet users are active on Twitter, while only 16% of white users. Pretty evenly spread across urban and suburban, and slightly lower with rural communities. Very balanced across different levels of education, high school, some college, and college degree. Only slight increases in Twitter popularity based on income. However, 19% are bringing home $75,000 a year or more. Less than 1 in 13 Americans actually have a Twitter account. Facebook has an 88% awareness, and 41% of those have a profile. Anybody remember these? This is Anthony Weiner's nutty decision to snap virtually nude pics of himself clutching his genitals in the congressional gym. The New York congressman snapping virtually nude photos of himself, first published by TMZ.com, in the House member's gym in Washington. How can he be trusted to make decisions on behalf of his constituents or his country? This is on top of his reckless decisions to send sexed and nearly naked photos to at least 5 women and to exchange direct messages with at least one under the age of 17 on Twitter. This video from the Republican presidential debate on CNBC shows Texas Governor Rick Perry struggling to find the name of the third government agency before finally giving up. It took him over 53 seconds to think about it, and yet he is unable to fill in his own blanks. This moment was viewed over 500,000 times in just the first 12 hours following the debate. The video also still has some not so nice comments on it. According to socialmouths.com, here are some interesting YouTube statistics. Was launched in 2005. Google purchased them in October 2006. HD Video launched in December of 2008. In October 2009, 1 billion users viewed every day. By January 2012, the number goes to 4 billion videos watched every single day. If those numbers aren't enough to show you just how big of an impact YouTube has on people across the globe, I'm not sure what will impress you. Whether you side with Republicans, Democrats, regardless of the fact that you get your news from sources like Fox News or CNBC, you're being influenced daily by videos originally posted on YouTube. Just think of the recent YouTube videos posted about the racial issues in Ferguson, Missouri, and just recently those in New York City. I know I first heard of those situations in my Facebook post linked directly to the latest YouTube video. How about you? What do you do within minutes of waking up? Some people, before they even get out of bed in the morning, are grabbing their mobile phones or tablets and logging on to their favorite social media outlet to find out what happened while they slept or get an update on yesterday's headline. According to Wikipedia, the definition of a blog is the truncation of the expression weblog, is a discussion or informational site published on the World Wide Web and consisting of discrete entries or posts typically displayed in reverse chronological order. Until 2009, blogs were usually the work of a single individual, occasionally of a small group, and often covered a single subject. As of February 2014, Tumblr boasted 172 million blogs, followed not so closely by WordPress, which had a mere 75.8 million. By 2004, the role of blogs became increasingly mainstream as political consultants, news services, and candidates began using them as tools for outreach and opinion forming. Blogging was established by politicians and political candidates to express opinions on war and other issues, and cemented blogs' role as a news source. They also assist reporters to get their words out, despite the dramatic decrease in newspaper circulation. An interesting side note, Israel was the first nation to set an official national blog. There are several types of blogs: personal, basically an ongoing personal diary; microblogging, practice of posting small bits of media including video, text, and images; corporate and organizational, used to enhance relationships between businesses and their consumers, or even within their own organization; genre, focus on a more specific topic such as politics, travel, raising children, and family life; media blog, a video blog which is also known as a vlog; device, this goes back to the device used to create the blog. When developed on a mobile phone or tablet, they are sometimes known as a moblog. Reverse blog, this is an example of the users of a product or service creating it instead of the company that owns it as to what they say. Not all blogs focus strictly on one topic. Take this example, Esquire. It hits on many topics and a little something for just about everyone. You can see just by the screenshot that politics takes a prominent role. In newspaper terms, the tagline, "The political blog," would appear above the fold. This is an example of a blog that is under the 5th largest newspaper in the United States, the Washington Post. Being in the heart of the nation's capital, of course, they would have something to say about politics. Basically, you don't have to know about a topic, you don't have to be an expert, or even someone that would be thought of as an expert. All you need is a willingness to put your opinion out there. Just grab a URL and put your thoughts and say, "Instant blog." Recognize this symbol? Well, you sure should. This is the logo for Pinterest. This is still climbing the social media ladder, but is definitely a force to be reckoned with, and political campaigns recognize it too. Pinterest is based on images and a few words. People build what are called boards. On those boards, which are commonly based around topics such as sports, motorcycles, recipes, funny memes, and politics. It's all about images on Pinterest. Looking back to even 2012, Mashable wrote an article about Pinterest and how it works with politics. Pinterest is very visual. It's less about words and more about images. It's meant to be quick, easy, and digestible in a quote from the article, which is already more than 2 years old, which is a long time in the social media world. To be successful on Pinterest, it's recommended that a campaign puts out a lot of pictures, but equally as important to make them shareable. This same Mashable article says, give people material they can repin and encourage them to comment on photos from the campaign. Also, develop a preemptive or proactive plan to understand which posts you want people to engage with freely and which you want to moderate, instead of flaring up on a conversation you'd rather not have active on a Pinterest page. It's important to monitor the boards. It could be potentially very detrimental to put up images, text, or stories and forget about them. All it takes is one negative comment left without a response for something to go seriously wrong with a political campaign. This article warns, don't pin and ditch. This image is a page of a Pinterest page called Politics on Pinterest. The Atlantic article states, we may all look back on February 21st, 2012 as the day that Pinterest became a player in the political realm. Why, you ask? Well, of course, it's the day that Ann Romney joined Pinterest. Big deal, you say? Well, it was in the heat of the 2012 presidential campaign of Romney's husband, Mitt. Part of what makes this an important event is that prior to this, there were numerous fake political or celebrity Pinterest pages, all making fun of the other side. When the article came out in February 2012, it was estimated that 80% of the Pinterest audience was female. I'd say that has the potential to be an excellent way to reach a huge portion of the voting population. Another interesting comparison, the Obama campaign had not yet joined Pinterest, so it gave the Romney camp an opportunity to gain a leg up. But then, we all know how the election turned out. Whether it be a political campaign or a friend sharing a recipe, social media is being used to persuade, inform, and share. The more convincing and widespread the efforts, the more successful anyone can be. It doesn't always mean that the message is the right one or even truthful, but the more viral the message goes, the more people hear about it or can recall seeing it, and that might take up time when someone's remembering the candidate's message, whether truthful or not. Social media outlets will continue to come and go. Their popularity will ebb and flow. A candidate should stick with the tried and true outlets to start with, but keep their eyes out for newer or better ways to reach different audiences. Social media channels are not the only way to reach the masses, but in most cases it is a very useful tool, and one that can no longer be ignored or even minimized. I would say it's a fair statement that in political campaigns there must be a social media department, with subject matter experts for the wide variety of options available. It is also important to remember that it only takes an instant to make or break months or even years of efforts to successfully win a political office. There are more smartphones today in America than there are people, which means that people are tuned in, plugged in, and only seconds away from breaking news around the clock. Just like most of us were taught as kids, be honest, be yourself, say what you mean, and mean what you say, and you'll be successful.